Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So my name is Katie and today I'm going to be sharing with you my March wrap up. So I read quite a lot of books in March because I thought I was going to be reading less because I was meant to be going back to university to placement, but unfortunately after 2 weeks they got cancelled. So I still ended up reading quite a lot. Yeah, so let's just get into it. So the first books I'm going to mention, so I'm going to mostly go in chronological order, but just a couple of them I'm going to lump together because they're by the same author. So I thought I'd just talk about them together. So the first, these are audiobooks actually, was Age of Legend and Age of Death by Michael J. Sullivan. So I'll put a little picture in there. And so these ones are the books 4 and 5 in the Legends of the First Empire series. I really love this series. I just started getting into Michael J. Sullivan's books this year actually, and I've loved them all so far. They're so good. And also Tim Durrant-Reynolds, who does the Red Rising audiobooks, does these ones as well, and he's just like god tier. He's like my favourite audiobook narrator. Yeah, so I really enjoyed these two. So this series, I think it's going to be a 6-book series, so the 6th one comes out in May, I think. And they're I would say it's split into like 2 halves, so the first 3 books and then the last 3 books. So these are kind of the first 2 in the second half, and I really enjoyed these ones. I really liked how in these 2 the characters go into the underworld basically, which was really cool. And yeah, I like how the main characters in this one kind of following 2 of the characters called Bryn and Tesh a bit more. They're some of my favourite characters in the earlier books. I love Tesh, he's such a himbo. But yeah, so that one, so those 2 are really good. Also I read The Crown Tower, also by Michael J. Sullivan. So I'll put that one there. And that was kind of a prequel series to his Theft of Swords series. So this one kind of follows Royce and Hadrian and how they meet. So you could easily read The Crown Tower without having read The Theft of Swords because it takes place beforehand. But it's just, so in the Theft of Swords series, you're kind of following a pair, Royce and Hadrian, and they're like best friends. They're kind of like Locke and Jeanne from the Gentleman Bastards. But in this one, The Crown Tower, is kind of showing how they're meeting, and I really enjoyed that because they kind of hate each other at first, and also they have the ultimate like grumpy one, sunshine one dynamic, which is great. So this also follows Gwen as well. And I really like seeing her kind of origin story, and also her storyline of prostitutes and them taking kind of agency for themselves and them setting up their own like brothel. And that was really good to see because it's quite sex work positive, which was really good. I think in a fantasy book I like seeing that. There's those ones. So I gave Age of Legend 5 stars, Age of Death 4.5 stars, and The Crown Tower 4 stars. Next up I read The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. So this one is a romance book and it follows the main characters Olive and Ethan. Olive's sister's wedding, and everyone gets food poisoning except from them 2. So Olive's honeymoon that they've booked, it can't be cancelled. So Olive's sister basically tells her she can go on the honeymoon. Olive's sister is getting married to Ethan's brother, and then Ethan's brother tells Ethan he can go on the honeymoon. So they end up going, so Ethan and Olive, who don't really like each other, they end up going on the honeymoon together. Kind of like the ultimate fake dating trope, because when they get to the resort, the kind of Olive's boss is there, and then she sort of panics and tells them that they're in a relationship. It's just so good. So it's kind of the perfect like light and fluffy romance, and it also gives you kind of holiday vibes, which I think are always appreciated. That's that one, and I gave that one 4 stars. Next I finished The Kingdom of Gods, which is the final book in the 100,000 Kingdoms trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. And I really enjoyed the conclusion in this one. So the first one in the series, it follows a world where kind of court of gods. So and the main character, Yen, she goes to this court and she's just kind of navigating the politics there. And then in this final book, we follow Say? I'm not quite sure how to say his name, but he is one of the kind of god children basically. And it follows kind of his relationship with 2 of the other characters. 2 other characters, and I just really liked all their dynamics in this book, the kind of bling and friendship dynamics, and also exploring like sort of what it means to be a child. I feel was done really well, and sort of growing up as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one, and I gave that one 4 stars as well. Then next we have some very exciting March releases. So the first one actually I got to was Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. So this is the spin-off of the Infernal Devices series. It follows the descendants of the children it follows children of the characters in the Infernal Devices series. And I really love this one. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's probably my 3rd favourite Shadowhunter book. I just loved all the characters in this one. Cordelia, the main character, she's such a great character. She knows what she wants and she just goes after it. She's quite badass. She's got this big sword called Cortana, quite a famous sword in the Shadowhunter world. So yeah, she's quite badass with that. And yeah, I love all the other characters as well. So there's like a dynamic, there's like 4 of the boy characters and they have this kind of little friend group going on, the Merry Thieves. So they're kind of like the Marauders in Harry Potter. But yeah, that's really good. And Lucy and Jessie as well, they have a really good kind of dynamic. Just all great. And I love Anna Lightwood as well. I could just talk forever about the characters. So yeah, so that was that one. And then I also read Crescent City by Sarah J Maas. So this is Sarah J Maas's newest book, really unconnected to her other books. So if you haven't read them, you could still read this one. And this is her first adult book, which you can definitely tell. She definitely put all the swear words she never let her characters say in the other books into this one. So if you don't like swearing in books, maybe give this one a miss. But yeah, and I would say if you like Sarah J Maas's, if you have read them, if you like her other books, you'll definitely love this. But if you don't, it's definitely a Sarah J Maas book, so maybe don't read it. This one was really good. I think it's quite good to go into like not knowing too much, but it's basically set in this like fantasy kind of city. It's quite like modern. And it's quite paranormal, like there's lots of different creatures and there's these different houses as well, like the different houses have different creatures belonging to different ones. And we're following Bryce, who's quite a like a kick-ass, takes no shit kind of character. She's quite sassy. So she teams up with this angel called Hunt, and they're kind of trying to solve these murders, which are kind of mirroring murders which happened quite a while ago. So yeah, so that's really interesting. I thought this book was maybe slightly longer than it needed to be, but the last 200 pages were like amazing and I'm really excited for this sequel. I think I would have also liked some more stuff about like the witches, and I really liked Hypaxia as a character, so I hope we get more of her in future books. And also the demon and the hell stuff, I like that. I hope Adius gets more screen time in future books as well. And another slightly negative thing about this one was I hated the word alcohol. They used it so much. Like it was alright once or twice, but it was just way overdone in my opinion. But yeah, if you can overlook that, then it was still a really good book. I really liked the kind of world building. The characters as well, I liked Bryce, and yeah, so that was that one. And after that I read the audiobook for Before They Are Hanged by Joe Abercrombie. So that is the second book in the First Law trilogy. I was kind of a little bit disappointed by this one. I gave it 3 stars, which is okay. I mean, I really enjoyed the audiobook. I think I definitely probably would have DNF'd the series if I hadn't been listening to the audiobooks. The narrator does such a great job, and his voice for Glockter is amazing. It's like he kind of has like a little lisp, and he perfectly like captures the kind of sass of Glockter really well. So I enjoyed that, but I think this one was just like this series doesn't have a lot of plot really, and I think in books without plot I tend to like it when characters have like clear arcs. So if the book hasn't got a plot, I still like for there to be a lot of character growth. But in this book, I don't really feel like the characters grew that much or there was much of a plot. So I feel like it was just more you kind of spending time with these characters and just kind of following their interactions basically. Which, I don't know. And I think it had a kind of poor payoff as well, which kind of annoyed me. Because basically, for most of the book, the characters are going on this like questy thing. And then they get to the end and basically there's nothing there, and that's all that happens. Like it's just kind of, yeah, it was just a bit disappointing really. I gave the first book 4 stars, the Blade itself, and I think Glockter is a great character. He's sarcastic and sassy, and I definitely am gonna read the last one, the Last Argument of Kings I think it's called. So yeah, so that is that one. After that I read The Midnight Lie by Marie Rutowski. So that is the kind of spin-off book for the Winter's Curse trilogy. So I really enjoyed this one. It follows this city where there's these different castes. So there's like half Keith and full Nirim, who is one of the Hearth Keiths, so she's kind of been looked down on all her life. And there isn't a huge plot in this one. There is a little bit of one. So she basically gets put in jail for this misunderstanding. And when she's in jail, she meets this other character called Sid, who's kind of a bit of a mystery. And actually, she has a connection to some of the characters from the Winner's Curse trilogy, which is great. And she's also she's a great character. She reminds me of Anna Lightwood from Chain of Gold. It just kind of follows them and their sort of relationship. Maybe blossoming. Quite an interesting city system, and I also think it did a really good gaslighting storyline. So Nirim, the main character, her sort of mother figure is very manipulative, so that was really good to see as well. And also it has a female-female romance, which I love, so that was great to see. So yeah, I gave that one 4.75 stars. After that, I read The Girl Who Drank the Moon, which is a middle grade, and this one's by Kelly Barnhill. So this one follows Luna, who is the main character, and one day when she's a baby, this witch takes the babies away from the village and usually feeds them starlight, but instead of feeding Luna starlight, she fed her moonlight. So Luna kind of gets powers from that. And then it just sort of follows Luna growing up and discovering her powers. So she has this little tiny baby dragon, Thurian, who was really cute as well. He thinks he's enormous, but he's actually tiny. And also the setting was really interesting. It's set on a volcano. You can kind of see in the cover, there's a bit of a thing there, which I thought was really intriguing because you don't see that setting that often. And it sort of reminded me of this episode from Avatar: The Last Airbender, when there's the volcano and all the village thinks it's not going to erupt because the fortune teller told them, but then Sokka's like, oh, can your science explain that? I like that episode. I just love Sokka. But yeah, so this one's really good. Adult characters as well, which is kind of cool to see in a middle grade because there's kind of various interweaving plot threads and they all tie together. Writing's really poetic as well, which was really good, so I gave this one 4.5 stars. Next, I listened to the 3 Amberlough dossier books. Amberlough, Armistice and Amnesty. So they're kind of a 1930s Art Deco type spy thriller. So they were really good. That audiobooks were really good. I would highly recommend them. The narrator did a great job. It's kind of the city where it's set is called Amberlough, but it's sort of basically New York City. And the voices she did were so good. I really enjoyed them. I gave them all 3.5 stars, I think. So the first book took me a little while to get into, but once I did, I really got into it. But also the kind of baddies are called Ospies, which sounds a lot like OSCE, which is a type of exam that I have on my university course. So that was kind of the exams are coming to get you. But so that's sort of a side tangent. And in the second book, one of the characters was kind of missing from the story, which I felt kind of it missed it a bit. But I did really like the plot in the second one as well, because it's kind of almost a bit Hollywoody. So the first one is kind of a city that's similar to New York, and then the second one is kind of a city that's similar to LA. And then in the last book, that character comes back, but another character isn't in the last books, which I also felt I missed her a bit because she really grew on me throughout the series. But yeah, but it is a really good series. Kind of, if you want kind of spy sort of drama, yeah, a bit of romance, yeah, a bit of politics. So yeah, I would recommend that series. And after that, I read Wicked As You Wish by Rinch Pecco. So I'll put a picture in there. Read that one on my Kindle. And this book actually has a really low rating on Goodreads, but I kind of enjoyed it. A bit fairy tale-y. It sort of reminded me of Once Upon a Time, which is a TV show from a few years ago, which I used to really like. And yeah, it follows Tala, who's the main character, looking after this prince. So in this world, it's sort of like the normal world, but there's also this country that used to exist called Avalon. And there's various fairy tale characters as well. Tala and this group of other characters that come along, called the Bandersnatchers, they are kind of trying to protect this prince, and they sort of go on the run. It's like a little road trip. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's kind of confusing, but I think if you've read Rinch Pecco's other books, you would probably like it. I think it is worth giving maybe 10-20% to sort of get orientated. And the main character is also Filipino, which was really good to see that representation. I think Rinch Pecco, they are also Filipino, so that is a bit of own voices representation, which is always good. Like the friendship dynamics and just the kind of general world. So, and then next I read Dragon Pill, which is a middle grade. It's one of the Rick Riordan Presents books. So I love Rick Riordan, but I haven't read any of the Rick Riordan Presents ones before. That was by Unhoneymooners. So I'm very pleased I started with this one because it was really good. So it follows, Min, who is a fox spirit, so she can kind of shapeshift. And basically she is trying to infiltrate this like space academy because something's happened to her brother, and she doesn't believe the story she's been told. So she's going to kind of investigate that. But yeah, it's really good. It kind of reminded me of Skyward a bit by Brandon Sanderson. And also this one featured ghosts as well, which I love ghosts. Ghosts is like Katie Bate in books. So yeah, so that was, really enjoyed that one. So I gave that one 4 stars. And then I also read another middle grade sci-fi actually, was Orion Lost by Alistair Chisholm. So I really enjoyed this one. It sort of follows these characters, they're all on this spaceship on the way to like colonize a new planet, and then something goes wrong and basically everyone on the ship gets put to sleep except from a couple, I think maybe there's like 5 of them, who are all like 13-year-olds. So they're now in charge and they have to sort of sort out what's going on, the sort of conspiracy. I think the tagline is they're millions of miles from home and someone is lying to them. So that's that. But yeah, this was really good, and I think it explored the leadership really well in young kind of, so the main character Beth, she's trying to kind of be a leader, and I thought that was a really good topic to explore in middle grade especially, and for young girls. So I really liked that one. And also yeah, it's quite STEM positive as well, which I like to see. And one of the characters, if you've watched Lost in Space, the TV show on Netflix, there's a character called VJ. He really reminded me of one of the characters in this, which I quite like him, so yeah, that was good. And I also listened to The Queen's Poisoner by Jeff Whelan on audiobook, so I'll put a little picture in there. I quite like this one. I think I gave it 3 stars. 3.5 stars. It's a really promising start to the series. I think it's about 6 books. Sort of reminded me of The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. But basically this kid, Owen, he's sent to this, like, the kingdom. His parents committed a crime, so he's kind of been sent as a hostage. And it's just kind of him growing up there. He sort of gets talking to the Queen's Poisoner, who is one of the characters. And also his little friendship with another character, another little girl called Elizabeth, was really sweet. But yeah, not a lot really happened in this book. That's why I didn't give it a higher rating, but I am definitely going to continue with the series. So after that I read Kingdom of Souls by Rena Barron. For some reason I didn't have the highest expectations going into this one. I don't know why. I think I'd just maybe seen some mixed reviews or something, but I really liked it. It follows kind of the death magic type thing, which was really cool. Main character Ara, so she doesn't have magic, but she really wants magic. So it's kind of like following that. So she's trying to get some magic, and the characters were all really interesting. And the dynamic she had with her mother was such an interesting one. Like, you don't see the kind of like really complicated mother-daughter relationships that much, especially in YA fantasy. Well, most of the time the parents are dead, but you know. But yeah, so that was really interesting in this one. And I love the kind of African tribal setting. I thought that was really good. So yeah, and I'm quite excited to see where the sequel goes, so I'll definitely be picking up the sequel to that one. And I gave this one 3.75 stars. I read The Shadows Between Us on audiobook. It was on Scribd. And this one is kind of like a Slytherin-y romance. The main character, Alessandra, she's basically decides that she wants to be queen, so she's gonna woo the king and then marry him and then kill him. This one, it was kind of, I enjoyed it for what it was. It was quite well, basic basically. So she's kind of, yeah, it was quite fun, but it wasn't really like anything mind-blowing or anything. And also it kind of annoyed me at the end. There weren't a lot of consequences. So she makes a decision and there aren't really any consequences for that. She just kind of does it. And I think a book that I would recommend, if you like the kind of sound of The Shadows Between Us, I'd highly recommend Cryer's War by Nina Varela, because that one I think does this trope a little bit better. So it's kind of like a rebel who's infiltrating the palace to try and befriend the princess. But in that one there is actual consequences for her trying to, like, deciding that actually she doesn't want to kill the princess. Whereas in Shadows Between Us, there wasn't really. So yeah, so that's a good, if you like the sound of The Shadows Between Us, I would still give it a try because it was really good. And also I really liked how sex positive it was, and sort of women just kind of going after what they want and being open about their sexual desires. I like that in The Shadows Between Us. But if you like the sound of it but you're a bit unsure, I would also highly recommend Cryer's War. So that is that one. I'm trying to speed up because I've been gassing on for ages. So then I also read Angel Mage by Garth Nix. So I just finished this one actually yesterday. Well, actually it might not be yesterday when this video goes up, but when I'm filming it. So this one, I don't know how I feel. I like the writing, but I think the plot just didn't quite deliver. Like, it was very promising. We're basically following these 4 characters, and yeah, that's the best description I can give. It's sort of this world where angels, you can like summon angels and get powers from them. And so this character called Lilith, she used to be the lover of this kind of evil angel, and she's trying to take back the power for that angel. And then we're also following these 4 other characters. They are sort of like just kind of living their life, teenagers. There's like a medical student, I think, and a guard, musketeer type thing, and a clerk, and what's the other one? She's sort of a scholar. So you like following them, end up getting embroiled in this Lilith's plots, but it just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of happened. I gave it 3 stars, but I am quite excited to try Garth Nix's other series, the Subreal series, because I've heard it involves ghosts, which I'm quite excited about. So that one is quite well loved, so hopefully I get on better with that one. I also read There Will Come a Darkness by Katie Rose Poole. So I read this one on my Kindle, and like similar to Kingdom of Souls, I wasn't quite sure how to feel about this one because I had seen a couple of mixed reviews, but I actually really love this one. It's kind of like you're following different characters, and it's quite multi-POV, and I really like multi-POVs, but I thought this one was done really well actually. There wasn't one which I didn't like. I sort of liked them all, and I liked how it was like following a prophecy. And yeah, you kind of don't know who the chosen one is basically, and just following them. And there was a bit of like necromancy magic as well, which I liked. So yeah, it was a really fun kind of classic-y type YA fantasy, these characters just sort of interacting. And yeah, so I enjoyed that one and gave that one 4 stars. Finally, I just want to mention a couple of books that I reread. So I read Egdedancer, which is a Stormlight Archive novella. So I really love this one, obviously. And yeah, it actually takes place between Words of Radiance and Oathbringer, but I just wanted to reread this one, because I bought it with some Waterstones credit that I had. And it's quite short. It's like 200 pages, I think, which is maybe not that short for a novella, but it reads really fast. Probably read it in a couple of hours. So I really enjoyed this one. I love Lift. She's such a great character, and Windle as well. I love Windle. He's like my favourite spren. He's so great. And yeah, so I really enjoyed that one. And also reread Flamecaster by Cindy Williams Chimer. So this is like, I love this series. It's one of my favourite YA fantasy series. I really enjoyed this reread. I think there's so much in this series that you can get on rereads, because there's loads of little hints that you pick up on. In each book, it kind of has its own storyline in the book, but there's also a storyline like running throughout. So I thought that was really great to see. And there's some of the characters who kind of, they're not like, I would say, the main characters in Flamecaster, but they are kind of main characters in the series. Like, if you read it, then like Destin and Evan and Lila, I really loved like all their bits in this book as well. It was really good. I really enjoyed that, and I gave that one 4.5 stars. I try not to go on too much, but this is quite a long video. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a good day. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And if you've read any of these books, do let me know in the comments, or if you're interested in any of them. And yeah, so thank you, and I'll see you next time.